is going on, FG3000 back in the place to be, and in today's video we taking a look at the upcoming action RPG gacha that will be available on PC and mobile, Tribe 9. Now Tribe 9 is based on the anime of the same exact name, brought to you by Kazuyataka Kodaka. Now this is the mastermind behind another game that you just might recognize. Now this game has been in development since 2020, and I think we just might see a global launch later this year. And all the gameplay that you see before ye is from the Steam version. So the backdrop of Tribe 9 is this: in the dystopian future, violence is absolutely out of control, and the government has this great idea. My fellow Americans, instead of solving our differences with bullets, let's use baseballs. But not to worry, if you have not seen the anime, you have no idea what's going on, you're not gonna be alone because the main character has amnesia, so y'all can learn together. And don't listen to this little cutie right here. If you don't want to learn, there is skip functionality. Now graphically, I wouldn't say this game is much of a looker. The battle arenas are just like bland areas in which you do battle. But the overworld itself slightly makes up for it. Now even though it's not technically impressive, I do feel it has a very interesting aesthetic that begs you to explore it. And speaking of exploring this game, it's not like your typical gacha where you're gonna go from stage 1-1, 1-2, 1-3. No, it's not like that. You explore the main story much like your typical JRPG. You're gonna be exploring the world, finding secrets, solving puzzles, going off the beaten path, and finding chests. And not to worry, there are plenty of fast travel points in between. The game also took a page out of the Dark Souls book. Yes, Dark Souls. So as you explore the world, you can actually see bloodstains of other players that died in that location. Now I know when you hear that, you know, me and you, us real gamers, you're like, really? Dying in a gacha game? But I gotta admit, Tribe 9 is the most challenging action RPG gacha that I've ever played. Now I know that bar's not very high, because gacha games in itself aren't very difficult, but hear me when I say this, this is the most challenging action RPG gacha game that is available. So let's start talking about combat. So as you explore the world, you can actually see the enemies on the overworld map with this really neat feature that nearby enemies all group up in a single encounter, which kind of lessens the loading screens. Like I constantly found myself dragging an enemy that was chasing me into another group of enemies just so I can just fight them all at once. And just like most JRPGs that have visible overland enemies, if you strike them before they strike you, you can build an advantage called tension. Now both you and your enemy build tension, represented by the blue bar for you, the red bar for your enemy. And tension actually has a lot more going on than you might expect. Now when you think about other games, right, they got things like Memoria, Craft Essence, artifacts, light cones, y'all know what I'm talking about. But here in Tribe 9, they're called tension cards. And tension cards, instead of being equipped per character like other games, tension cards are actually equipped party-wide. So as you build levels of tension, you activate different actives and passives based on the tension cards that your party has equipped. So for example, maybe I want to build a deck of tension cards that all activate at tension 0. You can do that. However, if you do that, you might be missing out on some more powerful cards that activate at tension 2 or even EX. So maybe you might want to do something kind of in the middle, where you have tension cards that activate at 0, 1, 2, 3, and EX. That way you have some smoother combat. It's really up to you. Now, unfortunately, that's kind of where the uniqueness of combat kind of ends. Other than that, it's a by the numbers action RPG, right? You got basic attacks on your left click, you got skills that activate via hotkeys with cooldowns, and as you do damage and you do combat, you build up an ultimate meter. And of course, what is becoming an action RPG staple, you got perfect dodges, right? When you see that little twinkle twinkle on the enemy, you know what to do. So with all that being said, how does combat actually feel? It it's just alright. It's really not great. If I had to compare it to another game in a similar category like ZZZ's combat is considerably better than Tribe 9. It's not even really close. Where I think Tribe 9 just really falls short is that feeling of impact, that viscerality. Like none of the abilities, none of the combat maneuvers that I was doing really felt that impactful. Like for example, the main character, if you played games like Wu Wa, Rover is a main character. I think her combat kit is really good. I love the abilities, I love the moves. Here, the melee character, he's not great, he's not bad, he just feels bare minimum. Nothing about his combat, his animations, or anything like that just really feel all of that special. But he's nowhere near as bad as all the ranged units I've used. I've used about 3 or 4 ranged units in this beta, and all of them, in my opinion, didn't feel like anything. Like doing combat range in this game literally feels like nothing. Like you're throwing nothing at the enemies, and I think that's something that they really need to work on if they want to stand out with the competition. But on the flip side, like I alluded to earlier, Tribe 9 is actually legit challenging. And I'm not talking about challenging once you've been playing the game for a while and you're doing like ultra hard modes. No, dude, I'm talking about as soon as you start playing the game, you will die. You will see bloodstains all across the map because the enemies, if they catch you slipping and you don't evade, they will take a ton of your HP and it's really easy to be killed. And that challenge is actually amplified a little bit because you do not recover your HP after battle. So while you're exploring these worlds, you're gonna have to really manage your HP. You're gonna have to use healing items that I found, at least early on in the game, are not plentiful. You're not gonna be able to rely on them. Sure, you can bring a healer with you, but once again, heals are on a cooldown and an enemy can basically wipe out all the HP you just got from a heal in one hit. So you definitely might have to get used to honing your evade skills, making sure you bring items, or going to the end repeatedly. And I know some of the combat footage that Editing FG is using makes it look easy. First of all, I'm a gamer, but also the beta gave us a ton of summoning currency, so this might not necessarily be your experience once you play the game. And speaking of the difficulty of the content, I am proud to report you can go to higher level areas and actually win combat if you're good enough. Now, other than some of the characters using baseball bats and catcher's mitts, I know the question has got to be, FG, where's all the baseballity at? Real word, don't fact check it and just respect it. Now, luckily for me as a person that's not a baseball fan, it is not long and drawn out baseball. Each team does 1 inning on offense and defense, and that score basically decides the game. Now, definitely stay tuned to the channel as we get closer to launch, where I'll then do a deep dive of this gameplay mode in the future, but here's a sample. Now, with all that we've talked about so far, you might forget that this is a gacha game, but yes, this is a stamina-based gacha game. However, dude, there is a mountain of dialogue in this game, dude. It is very, very dialogue heavy. So even after playing this game for several hours, I didn't get to the point where I can unlock any of the gameplay modes that actually take stamina. My bad. But outside of the main story, I did find various commissions and NPC quests, and fully exploring the world of Tribe 9 is a much bigger deal in this game than almost any other gacha game that you've played before. And that's because certain aspects of the game itself, such as your level cap, how many action skills you can use in combat, can only be activated once you've completed enough challenges, battles, exploration, XP games, which is something that I've never really seen a gacha game do before. But not to worry, all of that exploration is made easier via some fast travel points all around the world. And of course, all of that exploration will be rewarded with various items and of course some good old-fashioned cash shop currency. What a perfect time for that full summon animation to play out. Now, currently in this game, you have a rate up character banner, a tension card banner, and a standard banner. All of these banners use the same exact currency. And all of these banners contain both characters and tension cards, just at differing rate ups. And as far as I can tell, the gacha itself is Hoyoverse style, so for better or for worse. New characters can be leveled up to your current level cap via EXP juice, and dupes, as you might expect, are gonna grant additional passives. So there you go, a nice little early look at Tribe 9 and how it's shaping up thus far. I gotta tell you, dude, this game is extremely dialogue heavy, so do know that before you go in, there is a lot of dialogue in this game. And as a person who is a habitual story skipper, I actually found the story pretty interesting, and I really did want to know more about the world, so it does have that going for you. But if you're looking to just get into a game and just do some combat, I don't really feel like the combat in this game is really gonna draw you in. I felt like the combat was probably the weakest aspect of the game, but there's still more time to hopefully clean that up. But if I had to make a prediction on how well this game would be received if it launched today in its current state, it's definitely below Hoyoverse games, below Wu-Wah, but definitely above games like Snowbreak, Brown Dust 2, Astra, so kind of in that niche, which I think is pretty good company. And if they can somehow get it together to make their combat system just a little bit more impactful, a little bit more fun to engage with, it could definitely have a really strong niche following that's gonna kind of put it up there in that upper echelon of gacha games. So that will do it for my early impressions of Tribe 9. I'll definitely continue to check in with this game as we get closer to launch, because who knows, some of the auxiliary gameplay modes might elevate this game a little bit higher, and I completely changed my mind. Who knows? Until then, my name is FG, and I'm out.